Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel for some more Project Zomboid content. Now in this one we're going to be talking about NPCs, more specifically a recent update that was provided by lead developer Lemmy regarding the narrative and background NPCs are going to have, including examples of what this might look like when it drops. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I can't stress enough how helpful it is to get this video in front of more people and help the channel grow. You can also catch me over on Twitch on weekends, streaming Project Zomboid at twitch.tv/MrAtomicDuck. If you want to catch some gameplay or ask me some questions, feel free to drop by. So before we jump into the meat of this update, there was an update on build 41.69, the next build for Project Zomboid in this Thursdoid blog. They've provided us with a list of additions and changes for the update, which is linked in the original blog post, and you can find a link to that in the description of this video if you're interested. Now with that out of the way, we can get into talking about NPCs. Now in previous updates we were given some information about how NPCs would interact with the world when players weren't around. Essentially this was compared to one of those adventure books that would have several choices when confronted with an event, and you would turn to different pages depending on what you choose to do. This is very similar to how NPCs function when the player isn't around. There are many possible ways that events involving NPCs can unfold, but the update we were given recently basically shows us how it will look when an NPC tells their story. You'll see some common phrases or similar wording throughout some of the examples given in the blog post, and of course it's still a work in progress, but I wanted to read one of these out to you, and I'll show it on screen too to help it sink in. I knew the electricity would be cut off. We stocked up and ate fresh food first, then we lived on cans. We already had a generator and we used it for a while until it caught fire. The flames spread quickly. Juan got his extinguisher, but it wasn't enough. The smoke got to Keith, but we were able to drag him out of there. The whole house was on fire and we lost everything. I thought the Murphys might help us out, but they wouldn't let us inside. They said it was too dangerous. We were so desperate, we moved into a nearby house. We pushed a bookcase in front of the back door, broke apart a table and used the pieces to secure the windows. Then we just held out there as long as we could. And just so you can see a bit of variety, here's another one from a different NPC that we're going to take a more detailed look at afterwards. Just before the shit hit the fan, my sister Annie got sick. We tried to take her to the hospital, but the highway was blocked with traffic. By that time, we realized it was too late. The car was blocked in, and there was no way out. We had to abandon the car and make our way on foot. Annie was real bad. Her fever was getting worse. Brian, her husband, had to carry her, and there was nothing I could do for her. I did what I could, but it just wasn't enough. We didn't know. We had no idea what would happen. When she turned, she bit Brian on the back of the neck. We left them both out there. God help us. We left them both walking around out there. And what's cool about all of these narratives is that they aren't just a random selection of events, but a narrative formed from several connected events. Each event has various ways that it can pan out, and conditions that lead to that event being triggered in the first place, which can lead to a host of different outcomes to affect the storyteller and their group. So in the narrative that I've just read to you, the character starts with a family and other random elements. In this one, the sister, Annie, gets sick. This is the first constant of this narrative that the storyteller will refer back to throughout the rest of the narrative as it develops. The next event is determined with the help of the first event. This one was the second line, reading, "We tried to take her to the hospital, but the highway was blocked with traffic." This is where things get kinda cool. The devs state that the event of getting sick has caused this group to set the goal of traveling to Louisville Hospital. Now, wherever they are in the world, a path will be generated along roads to that location. Obviously, we don't see a car or the group themselves doing this, but this is generated off screen, and a randomly assigned appropriate vehicle is given to start moving this group towards the hospital at the same pace a vehicle would. Now, if we were to happen across this route whilst these NPCs were doing this, the car would actually spawn in with the NPCs inside it, and we would see them carrying out their journey. journey, and there's more than one way that this can play out. They can get stuck at a military barricade, get swarmed by a group of zombies, hit by another car, you get the idea. Each of these events generates a different branch the story can go down from here, with their own conclusions, or some may ultimately come back to the main narrative that they've already started. Lemmy continues to break down the set of events that unfold as part of this narrative, and I won't cover that all here, but again, if you want to full read, it's all available on the blog that I've linked in the description. Now, like I said earlier, there are some repeats in other examples given, but it's really great to see that progress is being made with NPCs and their narratives. This feels like an essential thing for world development in my eyes, and the more variety here, the better. I love creative writing like this, and I know a lot of the community does too. Perhaps it's something the devs could do to let the community help with this and provide our own story arcs that might be featured in game, helping to diversify things a little bit and build that pool of narratives. It's just a thought, but I know lots of people would love to get involved with this sort of thing. So that's it from me in this one, but before I go, I'd really like to hear what you guys think on the narrative system for NPCs thus far. Are you looking forward to it? Does it need some changes? Let me know in the comments. And as always, a very special thank you to all of my patrons that support me and help to make this possible whilst enjoying our whitelisted Zomboid server. Link is in the description. Thanks folks, and I'll see you all in the next one.